Trump vows it would never happen again. Hours after US forces obliterated a boat in the Caribbean, the American president calls them Tren de Aragua, Venezuela's terror gang, and promises more strikes. But legal experts call it murder, Colombia calls it a crime, and the world asks, is America's war on narco-terror breaking the law before it even begins? On September 2nd, the Caribbean Sea became the stage for what may mark a fundamental shift in America's war on drugs. 11 people died when US forces destroyed a boat that US President Donald Trump claimed was carrying massive quantities of narcotics from Venezuela. The strike represents the first known military operation since Trump deployed warships to the southern Caribbean, and administration officials are making it clear this is just the beginning. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump defended the deadly operation with characteristic bluntness.
On the boat, you had massive amounts of drugs. We have tapes of them speaking. It was massive amounts of drugs coming into our country to kill a lot of people. And everybody fully understands that. In fact, you see it. You see the bags of drugs all over the boat. And they were hit. Obviously, they won't be doing it again. And I think a lot of other people won't be doing it again when they watch that tape.
The president's words carried an unmistakable warning to drug traffickers across Latin America. Trump identified the vessel's crew as members of Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang his administration designated as a terrorist organization.
Venezuela's been a very bad actor. They've been, as you know, they've been sending millions of people into our country, many of them Tren de Aragua, some of the worst gangs, some of the worst people anywhere in the world in terms of gangs. And we had some in Washington, D.C. We took care of them very quickly, but they're out of here, they've gone. But Venezuela's been very bad, both in terms of drugs and sending some of the worst criminals anywhere in the world into our country.
US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth delivered an even more explicit threat, signaling that Tuesday's strike was merely an opening salvo.
We've got assets in the air, assets in the water, assets on ships, because this is a deadly serious mission for us, and it won't stop with just this strike. Anyone else trafficking in those waters who we know is a designated narco-terrorist will face the same fate.
US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, speaking from Mexico City, suggested that similar operations might already be underway.
And it'll happen again. Maybe it's happening right now, I don't know. But the point is, the President of the United States is going to wage war on narco-terrorist organizations. This one was operating in international waters, headed towards the United States to flood our country with poison, and under President Trump, those days are over.
The dramatic escalation has sparked intense debate among legal scholars and international law experts about whether the United States acted within its authority. The Pentagon has refused to release details about how the operation was conducted or what legal justification was used, leaving crucial questions unanswered about this new approach to combating drug trafficking.
The strike violated fundamental principles of international law. The alleged fact that the attack was on the high seas is irrelevant. What is relevant is that the U.S. had no right to intentionally kill these suspects.
Experts also argued that labeling the victims as narco-terrorists doesn't justify the killing.
The fact that U.S. officials describe the individuals killed by the U.S. strike as narco-terrorists does not transform them into lawful military targets. The U.S. is not engaged in an armed conflict with Venezuela or the Tren de Aragua criminal organization.
The international reaction has been mixed, but pointed. Colombian President Gustavo Petro condemned the action on social media.
If this is true, it is a murder anywhere in the world. We have been capturing civilians who transport drugs for decades without killing them. Those who transport drugs are not the big narcos, but the very poor young people from the Caribbean and the Pacific.
Rubio dismissed legal concerns, telling reporters that
the president has a right under exigent circumstances to eliminate imminent threats to the United States. If you're on a boat full of cocaine or fentanyl or whatever, headed to the United States, you're an immediate threat to the United States.
Understanding why this particular strike occurred requires examining the criminal organization at its center. Tren de Aragua originated more than a decade ago in a Venezuelan prison known for its lawless conditions. But experts say the gang's role in global drug trafficking may be overstated compared to its involvement in human trafficking and violent crimes.
We found no direct participation of TdA in the transnational drug trade, although there are cases of them acting as subcontractors for other drug trafficking organizations.
The gang expanded as over 7.7 million Venezuelans fled economic collapse, spreading across Latin America. Countries like Peru, Colombia, and Chile have blamed Tren de Aragua for violence and criminal activity. But the group's speciality appears to be human trafficking, extortion, and contract killings rather than large-scale drug smuggling. Trump has made combating Tren de Aragua a signature issue, designating them as a foreign terrorist organization on his first day in office and invoking an 18th century wartime law to deport suspected members without legal recourse. The administration sent more than 250 Venezuelan men to a maximum security prison in El Salvador before deporting them to Venezuela. Though a US appeals court this week ruled that Trump cannot use the Alien Enemies Act for such deportations. As the Trump administration promises more strikes against what it calls narco-terrorists, the deadly Caribbean operation has established a new precedent for American military action against drug trafficking organizations. Whether this approach proves effective or escalates into broader conflict remains an open question as vessels continue moving through Caribbean waters under the watchful eyes of American warships.